Hello. Welcome back to my channel, or if you're new, I hope you stick around. This is the bonus/special episode that so many of y'all have been asking for. Sorry for the long wait. I wanted to make this episode as long and as perfect as I could. Also thank you. Y'all are seriously still so amazing. I'm getting close to 700 subscribers already, and if you guys want me to do some kind of special, please let me know. Maybe like a fanfic of a requested ship or a Q&A? You decide. Now on to the warnings. My content is almost never censored, that goes for curse words, mentions of the sideways tango, etc. This is overall fluff and mix of a few ideas that some of you awesome people left in the comments. So without further ado, let the story begin. Welcome. This is a bonus part for my His Bride series. A lot of people have been asking for one since I left the ending kind of open, so here it is finally. Warning. All of my stories contain no censoring with cursing, sexual scenes and other things. Trigger warning. Just a lot of fluff and fun things with the ships. All good? Let's go. Everyone was confused. No one thought that Atsumu and SakuAtsu knew each other. Komori never thought he'd see the day that SakuAtsu willingly touched someone else. The teams were still in shock as they stared at the scene that just happened in front of them. Both boys were just looking at each other lovingly, missing each other's touch. They were in their own little world when a loud ahem snapped them back to reality. The blonde looked around the gym and his eyes landed on his twin brother looking at him with an angry face. Osamu? Osamu just marched over to him and dragged him off of SakuAtsu's lap by his collar, making the blonde whine. No, let me stay with Omi. The grey twin groaned as he tossed Tsumu to the side, glaring down at him. Samu. The blonde spoke cautiously. Explain, Osamu demanded. What? Explained Tsumu. Why do I have to? The older twin crossed his arms. Atsumu, explain how the fuck you know that guy and who the hell he is to you. Atsumu pouted, trying to think of any way it could make sense or how he could get out of this situation. But he eventually sighed, knowing his brother won't let up on this. Fine, he said, defeated. Good, now tell me. Omi is my boyfriend. Silence filled the younger twin until... What? He barked out. Yeah. Omi-kun is my boyfriend. Atsumu just smiled nervously. Since fucking when? Osamu asked, visibly angry. Like a month. The blonde said, giving him a random date. And why didn't you tell me? Well, I didn't know if you were okay with it. You're always so protective of me. Because I'm your brother. I'm still older. He pouted. So what? We look out for each other. I could care less if you're older. Or Samu. Atsumu looked at him with puppy eyes. Don't look at me like that. You're so sweet. He tries to go in for a hug when Samu dodged it. Hey, you shit. Let me hug you. He said, trying to hug his brother, but he yet again dodged. This became a full-on scene between the twins, with Atsumu chasing the other, yelling at him, and Osamu running away, dodging his brother's attacks. And Sumo with his phone out, recording the whole thing. Soon the news of Atsumu and SakuAtsu dating spread amongst the volleyball teams like wildfire. Many were accepting, while others, like fans or girls who had crushes on Atsumu, were upset with this knowledge. And others at school being overall homophobic towards it. But it didn't bother the blonde nor the raven-haired boy. Both knew that their love was strong and it wasn't going away. It didn't all those years ago, so why would it now? Time went by. Atsumu and SakuAtsu practically were stuck to each other's hip. The raven-haired was scared to let Atsumu out of his sight. He didn't want to lose the blonde again. He didn't want to go through the pain of his lover's loss once more. So he came up with a plan. He wanted to ask him to be his, forever, for real this time. The raven-haired boy planned on asking if he could turn Atsumu, making him a vampire alongside with him, letting them live together forever. He knew the blonde will most likely say yes, but there was still doubt in his mind. What if he says no? There's so many reasons as to why he would refuse it. One reason would be because if his brother, as much as Atsumu loves Sakusa, he wouldn't want to leave his brother behind completely. So he decided to ask Suna to help him out on that part. Suna was also a vampire just like Kayumi. He wanted to ask Suna to see if he would be able to turn Osamu while Sakusa turns Atsumu. That way both of them will be together and not have to worry about the other one dying. He thought about it for a while and decided on going through with the plan. But first he needed to get Suna on board. So he appeared one day at the other house, scaring the shit out of him by his sudden arrival. What the hell? Suna said, slightly shocked. Hello, Sakusa said, unamused. Why are you here? The other asked. I'm here to propose an idea. And what's in it for me? I don't know, maybe being with the one you love for the rest of time? What? Are you suggesting what I think you are? Yes, I am. I want to be with Atsumu forever. I've lost him once and I don't want to lose him again. Well, you really love him. Of course I do. So when do we do this? You're on board with the plan? Yeah, I've been meaning to ask Osamu anyways, so this is perfect. Great, so this is what I'm thinking. Sakusa then proceeded to tell Suna what his plan was. After going over the plan, it was time to put it in action. Sakusa decided to ask him during a date that he was planning. He wanted it to be perfect for when he pops the question. He was now on his way to pick Atsumu up from his home. Once he made it there, Sakusa stepped out of the car, grabbing a bouquet of white roses that were resting on the passenger seat before walking to the front door of his lover's house. He took a deep breath before knocking. The door remained closed as the raven-haired boy heard some scuffling from the other side of the door and muffled shouting. Sakusa raised an eyebrow at the shouting when the door opened to reveal Osamu with an annoyed face. That dumbass is still getting ready, he said, sighing. Oh, I'll just wait then. Come wait inside. The grey-haired twin motioned for him to come inside the house and Sakusa did just that. Waiting patiently and nervously for Atsumu to walk down the stairs. After a few minutes, the blonde walked downstairs in an outfit that fit him so perfectly. Sakusa looked at him in awe. He looks so beautiful. His eyes drifted over his figure, his legs were hugged right by his jeans, bringing his perfectly sculpted thighs to full thickness. With the jeans he wore a simple plain t-shirt that still complemented his complexion. Atsumu smiled at his boyfriend with a big grin. "Omi," he said, walking up to him happily. "Hi my love." Sakusa smiled softly, giving the blonde a peck on his cheek, earning a small giggle from him. "You look handsome as always," he said with a sly smile. Sakusa chuckled at the comment and handed Atsumu the bouquet he bought for him. The blonde's eyes softened at the sight. "Oh, Omi, you shouldn't have," he said with an adorable smile. "Anything for you, darling." They were being lovey-dovey until they heard a forced gag coming from the other side of the room. Both looked over to see Osamu fake gagging at their love. Atsumu pouted at this. "Samu, don't be rude." The younger twin stopped, rolling his eyes. "Then stop looking at him like you want to shove your tongue down his throat." The blonde let out a sarcastic gasp. "So rude." Osamu just scoffed. "Get your asses out and go on that stupid date. We will." Atsumu retorted as he grabbed Kayumi's hand and dragged him along out of the house. Their date was enjoyable. It wasn't extravagant, but it was sweet and content, just like their wedding was in the past. They were walking while holding hands, with Sakusa leading them on where to go. Once they got to the spot, Atsumu's eyes widened at the sight. "Omi, this." He struggled to find the right words. Tears threatening to fall out his eyes. He took a breath, taking in the sight. It was an exact replica of their wedding, all down to the final detail. The roses that lines the aisle, the archway at the end full of greenery, everything was just perfect. It's so beautiful. The blonde stated as he looked at his boyfriend, tears falling down his cheeks. SakuAtsu smiled and brought a hand up to Atsumu's cheek, wiping away those tears with his thumb. I hope you like it. It took a while to find the correct items for it, he said with a soft smile. I love it, Omi. It's perfect, Atsumu smiled, snuggling into the palm of the hand that's caressing him. Good, because there's something else I want to do. What is it? He asked, confused at what he meant. SakuAtsu just smiled, then let go of his boyfriend's cheek before stepping away and walking to the archway at the other end of the aisle. Atsumu stood at the end confused until music started to play. It was a similar song that played when he walked down the aisle all those years ago. The blonde chuckled softly to himself before making his way down the aisle, walking slow to the music. Once he made it to SakuAtsu, they looked at each other with the same love they had for each other still there. The raven-haired boy lifted his hand and caressed his cheek once more. You still look beautiful. Atsumu smiled at those similar words that were said once to him before. Thank you. Now Atsumu, may I ask you something? The blonde just giggled and nodded. No need to be so formal, Omi. SakuAtsu took a deep breath before asking him. Atsumu Miya. Will you be willing to spend the rest of eternity together? Not just as a human but as a vampire alongside me. The other's face changed into a shocked one. Omi? Are you serious? Yes, I don't want to lose you again. He said in a sad tone. But what about Osamu? I can't leave him. Suna is handling him, both me and him will turn one of you so you don't have to worry about losing the other. So Osamu will get turned too? Yes, you'll still be able to stay together. Then, yes, I want to spend the rest of eternity with you. The raven-haired male smiled big before engulfing Atsumu in a big hug. Thank you, my love. SakuAtsu pulled away from the hug before kissing him deeply. The vampire's own blood transferring from his own mouth into Atsumu's. Swallowing the blood with a bitter taste, his body started to change. His human cells being replaced with ones of a vampire. All of this was sudden, his body not knowing how to react made Atsumu pass out in SakuAtsu's arms. The raven-haired boy held onto him tightly as his human presence changed. He looked at the sleeping blonde. It'll be over soon, you'll be okay. Almost an hour later, the blonde woke up in an unfamiliar room. Huh? Where am I? He looked around the monochrome room, seeing some familiar items around it. Omi? Just then a figure walked through the door, making him look over. Entered SakuAtsu with a small plate of food and a glass of an unknown liquid. How are you feeling? He asked, wanting to make sure he's completely okay. I'm fine. I just feel different. He nodded and placed the pats of food on the nightstand along with the mystery drink before sitting on the bed beside Atsumu. Gripping a hand onto the blonde, he smiles. Thank you. Atsumu raised an eyebrow. What for? For staying with me? The other just looked at him with softened eyes. Of course. I could never leave you behind again. Atsumu and SakuAtsu shared a sweet kiss because finally they got their true happy forever after. The end.